Behind the scenes, did you know Canada brought in over 1.2 million newcomers in just 2 years? That's more than the population of Calgary, and it's only growing. On paper, it sounds like progress. But behind the scenes, something's breaking, fast. Hospitals are overwhelmed, rent has hit record highs, and young Canadians can't afford homes anymore. Jobs are shrinking, schools are bursting, and public services are stretched to their limit. Yet, no one seems to be talking about why this is happening, or who's benefiting from the chaos. Is this just poor planning, or something more? In this video, we're diving deep into the 10 biggest reasons behind Canada's immigration crisis in 2025, the reasons they're not telling you. By the end, you'll understand the hidden forces, the real numbers, and how it could affect your future. Stay with us, this is the part of the story the headlines won't show. Number 1. Overwhelmed infrastructure. Canada's rapid immigration surge isn't just about numbers on paper, it's creating real pressure on the country's core systems. Hospitals, schools, transit networks, and basic public services are struggling to keep up. Think about this: emergency room wait times in some provinces have doubled, and many Canadians are now waiting over 6 months just to see a specialist. In Toronto alone, parents are reporting overcrowded classrooms, with some kids learning in hallways or temporary portables. So, why is this happening? It's simple: infrastructure hasn't grown at the same pace as the population. Canada planned for immigration, yes, but not for the unprecedented speed and scale we're now seeing. Provincial budgets remain stretched, cities can't build fast enough, and the cracks are starting to show. Meanwhile, public transportation is buckling under pressure. Delays are longer, buses are packed, and people are spending more time commuting than ever before. It's frustrating, especially for working Canadians who rely on these systems daily. And the scariest part: this isn't just about inconvenience, it's about quality of life. When systems get overwhelmed, everyone pays the price. Immigrants come here for a better life, but when services collapse under pressure, nobody wins. So ask yourself: is Canada welcoming newcomers, or setting them up to struggle alongside the rest of us? And if our systems are already at the edge, what happens when another million people arrive next year? Number 2. Housing affordability collapse. Rent in major Canadian cities has skyrocketed by over 30% since 2022, and it's only getting worse. In Vancouver and Toronto, a one-bedroom apartment can now cost over $2,500 a month. For many, owning a home is no longer a dream, it's a fantasy. So what's causing this housing chaos? At the core is a simple truth: too many people, not enough homes. Immigration has pushed demand to record levels, while housing supply remains critically low. According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, we would need 5.8 million new homes by 2030 just to restore affordability, but we're nowhere close. Developers can't build fast enough, and zoning laws in many cities make new construction painfully slow. Meanwhile, wealthy investors and foreign buyers scoop up properties, turning homes into profit machines instead of places to live. The result: young Canadians are stuck living with parents longer, or forced to rent with strangers well into their 30s. Middle-class families are being pushed out of urban centers altogether. And here's what's rarely said: many new immigrants arrive with hopes of buying property, but they enter a market that's already stacked against them, making them both victims and unwilling contributors to the problem. This isn't just about real estate. When people can't find stable housing, communities suffer, mental health declines, and social tension rises. If housing is a basic human need, why does it feel like a luxury now? And more importantly, why isn't anyone talking about how immigration policy and housing policy are deeply connected? Number 3. Exploitation of international student loopholes. On the surface, Canada's international student program looks like a success story, but behind the scenes, it's turning into a multi-billion-dollar business built on shaky ground, and it's fueling part of the immigration crisis no one wants to talk about. Did you know that Canada admitted over 800,000 international students in 2024 alone? That's more than the total population of Halifax and Regina combined. And here's the catch: a large number of these students aren't coming just for education. They're coming as a pathway to permanent residency, often misled by shady agents and unregulated private colleges. Some of these so-called colleges barely have classrooms, let alone qualified teachers. They promise fast-track diplomas, inflated job prospects, and the golden ticket to Canadian PR, but deliver low-quality education and sky-high tuition fees. Many international students end up working full-time to survive, crowding into shared basement apartments, and taking on gig jobs just to make rent, all while struggling to keep their student visas valid. Meanwhile, real educational institutions are under pressure, and domestic students are being sidelined. And let's be honest, the federal government turns a blind eye because international students now pump over $22 billion into the Canadian economy each year. The result? A growing population that's stressed, undersupported, and vulnerable with very little oversight. So ask yourself, are we helping these students succeed, or are we using them as economic fuel while pretending it's all about education? This system is broken. And if nothing changes, it could crash, taking our schools, immigration system, and social trust down with it. Number 4. Lack of regional settlement planning. Canada is a vast country with plenty of space, yet most new immigrants end up in just a few places: Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. Why? Because there's no effective regional settlement strategy. Instead of directing newcomers to areas that actually need workers and have affordable housing, most immigration funnels into already overloaded urban centers. It's a system with good intentions, but poor execution. Newcomers often follow familiar paths, communities they already know, access to cultural support, and job opportunities. But without proper government incentives and infrastructure in smaller cities, there's little reason for them to settle elsewhere. The result? Major cities are bursting at the seams, while smaller towns with declining populations remain underutilized. This creates an imbalanced system where resources are drained in one area and wasted in another. Think about it. Some Atlantic or prairie towns are desperate for workers and even offer cash incentives or free land to attract new residents. But the immigration system doesn't do enough to support these moves long term, with limited language support, housing, or employment services in place. Meanwhile, Toronto renters pay over $2,500 a month, hospitals are overbooked, and transit is a nightmare. It's not just inefficient, it's unsustainable. And here's the kicker: the federal government acknowledges this issue, but coordination between provinces and Ottawa is still patchy at best. So, what's the real cost of this uneven spread? Overcrowded cities, unhappy immigrants, and missed opportunities for struggling regions. If we don't fix regional planning soon, we'll keep repeating the same cycle over and over again. We put our heart into creating videos that tell the truth others won't. So if this hit home, drop a comment and share your thoughts. We read every single one. And if you believe more people need to hear this, subscribe to our channel. It's just one click, but it means the world to us. Number 5. Language and skills gaps in labor integration. Every year, thousands of highly skilled immigrants arrive in Canada: doctors, engineers, accountants, and other professionals. But instead of working in their fields, many end up driving Uber, delivering food, or taking low-wage survival jobs. Why? Because Canada's labor market is full of invisible walls, especially when it comes to language barriers and foreign credential recognition. Imagine spending 10 years studying medicine abroad, only to be told your degree doesn't meet Canadian standards. You now need to retrain from scratch, take multiple expensive exams, and wait years just to apply for licensing. And even if you're qualified, without fluent English or French, landing a decent job becomes nearly impossible. The result? A massive waste of human potential. Canada is importing talent, but failing to use it. A 2023 report from the Conference Board of Canada found that immigrants with international education earn 20 to 30% less than those with Canadian credentials, even when they have equal or better experience. It's not just unfair, it's economically damaging. These barriers limit productivity, increase dependence on government support, and worsen feelings of frustration and isolation among newcomers. And let's not forget the social impact. When immigrants can't find meaningful work, they're more likely to feel disconnected and less likely to fully integrate into Canadian life. So here's the uncomfortable truth. We invite the world's best and brightest, then trap them in a system that often undervalues their worth. Canada doesn't just have a labor shortage, it has a skills mismatch crisis. And if we don't fix the disconnect between immigration policy and job market realities, we're wasting talent we desperately need. Number 6. Rise of temporary foreign worker exploitation. Behind Canada's farms, factories, and food processing plants is a silent workforce: temporary foreign workers who are keeping entire industries alive, yet often living in shockingly poor conditions. As of 2025, there are over 150,000 temporary foreign workers in Canada, many of whom work long hours for low pay, with little legal protection. These workers are brought in to fill labor shortages, especially in agriculture and construction, but the system designed to help them is riddled with abuse. Many are tied to one employer, meaning they can't change jobs without risking deportation. Some are housed in overcrowded, unsanitary conditions, denied basic rights, and afraid to speak out due to fear of losing their status. A 2024 Human Rights Watch report revealed cases where workers were verbally abused, forced to work while sick, and even threatened with deportation if they complained. And yet, this isn't widely discussed. Why? Because Canada depends on their labor, but doesn't always treat them like full members of society. Meanwhile, employers benefit from a steady supply of cheap labor, and the government avoids long-term commitments, making this system both convenient and broken. This also creates tension in the job market. Canadian workers often feel undercut, while foreign workers feel trapped and disposable. And here's the bitter irony. We call these workers temporary, but many have been in Canada for years, building our economy, with no path to permanent residency, and no real voice in the system. So ask yourself, is this fair? Is this the kind of Canada we want? Because until we fix how we treat foreign workers, we're building our future on the backs of invisible exploitation. Number 7. Political gridlock and policy paralysis. If you've ever wondered why nothing seems to change, even when problems are obvious, the answer is political gridlock. Canada's immigration system is caught in a tug-of-war between the federal government, provincial governments, and municipal leaders. And the result? Policy paralysis, where plans are announced, promises are made, but very little actually happens. For example, the federal government sets immigration targets, but it's the provinces and cities that handle healthcare, education, housing, and job integration. When immigration levels are increased without consulting or preparing local systems, chaos follows. Take Ontario. In 2024, the province warned Ottawa that it couldn't keep up with the surge in newcomers, especially in healthcare and housing. But the federal targets kept rising. Now, the blame game has begun, with each level of government pointing fingers instead of finding real solutions. And it's not just about services. Immigration reform laws take years to pass, and even when they do, they're often watered down by political compromises. Leaders worry more about poll numbers and public image than fixing root problems. Meanwhile, Canadians grow frustrated. Newcomers feel unsupported. And the system just keeps limping forward, broken, but still running. This kind of dysfunction isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. Because without bold, coordinated action, immigration pressures will only get worse. So ask yourself, if our leaders can't even agree on the basics, how can we build a system that actually works? Until federal, provincial, and local governments start working together, we'll continue spinning in circles while real people pay the price. Number 8. Increase in public resentment and xenophobia. Let's face it, when people feel like they're losing, resentment grows. And in Canada today, more and more citizens are feeling exactly that. Sky-high rent, longer hospital waits, job insecurity, and overcrowded schools are pushing many Canadians to the edge. And when those frustrations have no clear outlet, they often get misdirected toward immigrants. But here's the truth, immigrants are not the problem. The system is. Still, public sentiment is shifting. A 2025 survey by the Angus Reid Institute revealed that over 55% of Canadians believe immigration levels are too high, a dramatic rise from just a few years ago. And social media platforms are filled with heated debates, stereotypes, and fear-based narratives. This kind of environment is toxic for everyone. It creates an us versus them mentality and divides communities that should be working together. The worst part? Many immigrants are just as frustrated. They come with hope, skills, and ambition, only to face endless obstacles, discrimination, and a lack of support. When both newcomers and native-born citizens feel the system is failing them, tensions rise. And unfortunately, politicians and media sometimes exploit this tension for attention or votes. Fear becomes a tool, and immigrants become easy scapegoats for complex issues. So let's be clear, the real enemy isn't immigration, it's a broken system that mismanages it, underfunds public services, and avoids honest conversations. If we don't address this now, we risk something much worse than policy failure, we risk losing social unity. Because resentment, left unchecked, doesn't just stay online. It spills into our streets, our schools, and our future. Number 9. Welfare system pressure. Canada has long prided itself on having a strong social safety net, free healthcare, public education, employment support, and welfare programs to help those in need. But what happens when that system gets stretched too thin? In 2025, provinces like Ontario and British Columbia are reporting record demand for social services, from from housing subsidies to food banks. At the same time, healthcare waitlists are growing longer, and mental health support is harder to access than ever. One key reason: rapid population growth without proportional funding. As more newcomers arrive, many without established incomes or networks, they often rely, at least temporarily, on government assistance to find housing, jobs, or healthcare. This is not their fault, but when thousands of people tap into a limited system all at once, cracks begin to show. Local resources are overwhelmed, frontline workers are burned out, and citizens, both new and longtime residents, are left waiting, struggling, and sometimes falling through the cracks entirely. In smaller communities, this pressure is even more severe, with fewer services and less funding to begin with. Meanwhile, critics seize on this stress to fuel anti-immigration narratives, claiming newcomers are draining the system, when in reality, it's a planning failure, not a people problem. Let's be honest. Canada's welfare system wasn't designed for this level of population growth in such a short time. Without serious investment and reform, it risks becoming unsustainable, because when safety nets fray, it's the most vulnerable, including immigrants themselves, who suffer first. The question isn't whether we should help, it's how to do it right, without breaking the very system meant to support us all. Number 10. Media and government narrative control. Turn on the news and you'll hear a lot about Canada's commitment to diversity, inclusion, and immigration. But dig deeper, and you'll find something missing: the full story. In recent years, the media has grown increasingly cautious when reporting on immigration challenges. Journalists fear being labeled as anti-immigrant or xenophobic, even when they're simply pointing out policy failures. Meanwhile, government press releases are filled with positive spin, but little accountability. It's not that they're lying, it's what they're not saying that matters. For example, when immigration levels hit historic highs in 2024 and 2025, the headlines focused on record-breaking growth and Canada's open arms. But there was little mention of housing shortages, hospital backlogs, or the strain on public services. Why? Because the narrative is tightly controlled. Immigration is politically sensitive, and governments often avoid hard conversations to protect their image or their voter base. Even social media platforms have played a role, silencing or demonetizing content that questions official immigration policy. This makes it harder for everyday Canadians to find balanced, honest discussions. But here's the danger. When people feel like they're not being told the truth, they stop trusting the media. They turn to fringe sources, conspiracy theories, and anger-driven echo chambers where misinformation thrives. And that's how division deepens. We need open, honest conversations about immigration, not fear, not blame, and definitely not censorship. Because avoiding the truth doesn't make the problem go away. It just buries it until it explodes. If Canada wants to build a stronger future, we need transparency, accountability, and the courage to face reality, not just headlines. So, now you've seen it: 10 real reasons behind Canada's immigration crisis in 2025, and why the official story barely scratches the surface. This isn't about pointing fingers or blaming newcomers. It's about a system that's been pushed beyond its limits, one that's failing both new immigrants and Canadian citizens alike. From overwhelmed hospitals to housing chaos, from underpaid foreign workers to rising public frustration, the signs are everywhere. Yet, the silence from policymakers and mainstream media is deafening. The truth matters. Because if we can't talk honestly about these issues, we can't fix them. Canada has always been known for compassion and opportunity. But compassion without planning leads to collapse, and opportunity without fairness leads to resentment. It's not too late. But we can't keep pretending everything's fine. So the real question is, are we ready to fix the system or keep ignoring the cracks until it breaks completely? Fixing Canada's immigration crisis isn't about slamming the brakes, it's about steering the system in a smarter direction. Here's what needs to change. 1. Align immigration targets with infrastructure. The federal government must scale immigration levels to match housing, healthcare, and social capacity. This means collaborating with provinces and municipalities, not overriding them. 2. Reform foreign credential recognition. Doctors, engineers, and skilled professionals should not be wasting years in survival jobs. We need a national fast-track system that assesses foreign credentials fairly and efficiently. 3. Crack down on diploma mills. Private colleges exploiting international students should be shut down immediately. Provinces must regulate admissions and ensure academic quality, not profit. 4. Expand regional settlement programs. Give immigrants real incentives to settle in smaller cities and towns, with language support, job placement, and housing assistance in place. Let's balance growth. 5. Protect temporary workers. Replace tied work permits with open permits and provide strong legal protections. If these workers are good enough to build our economy, they deserve basic rights and a path to stay. 6. Increase transparency. The media and government must stop avoiding hard conversations. Canadians deserve the full picture, not filtered headlines. Honest dialogue is the first step toward real reform. 7. Invest in public services. More people means more funding. Period. We must invest in healthcare, education, and transit to keep up with population growth, or risk total breakdown. In short, smart immigration, fair opportunities, honest leadership. That's what Canada needs now.